Have some?
What's wrong?
Go on a mission. Just across the road.
I'm going on a mission with the big boys. What's that thing on TikTok? Have you seen that?
Do you know what my daughter's into now on TikTok? Big titty, small waist. Oh, I can't deal. I cannot deal.
I don't want to. But the thing is, I don't want to see young girls here. Thank you, darling. I don't want to see young girls like singing and then like songs. No, darling. Do you want rosé?
Yeah, I'm happy with rosé.
Can I get a rosé and I'll get a couple of sabs? Villa Maria, please. Villa Maria. I love you. What?
Are we live?
Are you? Are we?
Are we really?
Jesus Christ, she does it to us every time. So hello everybody in Obsessed Hub.
Hello.
Natalie behind the scenes, because she does it because she knows that there's no camera on her. Is your mic on though? So I have an amazing guest with me today. So sorry about the shenanigans at the beginning of this show, but it's who we are, it's how we are, it's how we roll, right? So I have with me Renee Hayley. Now she is an expert in conscious parenting, hypnotherapy, and has a wealth of knowledge and experience in that field. So I will actually, sorry, can you bugger off? Because
No, it's not working.
Yes, it is.
I can't hear. I'm watching it.
The
sound. Yeah, it's terrible. The sound.
Sorry about the shenanigans at the beginning of this show, but it's who we are.
It's tinny.
I'm all good. We're still live. This is gold, mate.
I just had my, like, what's going on face. Cheers. That's all I can say.
I love it. This is how we roll here. So basically, we talk about conscious parenting. If you just spend 5 minutes with this woman, it would blow your mind. And yes, you do that, and it's incredible that you have the ability to actually talk about conscious parenting. Before we were just, I don't even know if it was on camera, but talking about a centre, you're going in to talk to a childcare centre and share your knowledge and talk about the importance of conscious parenting.
Absolutely.
Right? But you're much more than that, and you go a lot deeper than that. Your story is incredible, and I know that everybody that's going to be watching is going to be hearing a lot about it. I've actually got goosebumps.
I know, I've got them too.
So
just thinking about it.
Yeah, you are, guys. She's a mum and she's a grandma. I want what you're drinking.
Rosé.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do. In my words, I mean, I kind of had a bit of a disjointed thing there, but tell us what you do.
I from my journey, from my story, from everything, from being a mum, a teen mum, and all the things that I've gone through in my life, mindset was something that was kept me getting through everything. And so when I got to the other side of that and then went down the road of studying hypnotherapy and studying timeline therapy, and I had all these aha moments that I realized that mindset is the game changer. So if we don't control our thoughts, and if we don't control our mind, and if we don't control the words that we say to ourselves, then our mind's going to control us and our thoughts are going to control us.
Yeah.
And the words that we tell ourselves is going to make us believe that that's what we are.
And I suppose that's probably the dangerous part around parenting. There's no rule book, right?
No.
So that's and I say dangerous, but I don't mean that like on a conscious level. And this is what you're talking about, is you can unconsciously pass on years of abuse, learned behaviours, inadvertently handing that down to your children and causing damage. And there is a way that if you explore, if you're open to the opportunities of learning a different way of parenting, but sometimes how do you get to people that actually aren't ready or open? Because I think that would be the biggest thing.
That's the hardest part, and I guess for myself, the people that I get to are the ones that are ready. It's like my favorite saying is, you can hand a newborn a book, but you can't expect it to read. So people that don't want to see or admit or even try to learn something new for themselves, then it doesn't matter how many sessions I did with them or how much I tried to talk to them, it wouldn't register because they're not ready to receive.
I like that. That's a good description. And you can hand a newborn a book that you can't expect. It's like you can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink.
You can stand on its head and drown it though.
So topic. That's why I love this woman. It's so good. I love it. So we're going to talk today about because we've had, and this is when you reached out to me, and I literally had an hour conversation with my mum and saying, this is how it made me feel when this happened, because I have like a pretty colourful background and a very, what are the words? Well, give me some words here. A very tumultuous, eventful, without kind of being disrespectful to, because my parents are still around, and I think we're getting to that point now where we can openly discuss how certain things were handled inside our own family unit, right?
Yeah.
So you described it, and I've never heard it described like that before ever. Ostrich parenting, and you messaged me out of the blue 5 minutes after I had that conversation with my mum. So I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, we must have this conversation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So talk to me about ostrich parenting, what that is.
My analogy of ostrich parenting, and mind you, my kids now are all adults.
Yeah.
So my baby just turned 20. My eldest is 28 this year. So 28, turning 28, turning 26, 22 and 20. And then my grandchildren are 5 and 10 months old. So for many, many moons, raising my kids, teens, my house would always have at least 12 teenagers over on the weekend. My place was a place to come. They could relax. It could be themselves. So I've heard and seen and been around lots of kids. And let's face it, our kids can do things that they shouldn't. Or, maybe we don't want to think about the things that our kids are doing. So let's just stick our head in the sand and not admit what's going on. Or let's stick our head in the sand and not share things with our kids like sex or drugs or all that sort of stuff, because it makes us feel uncomfortable, and we don't want our kids to know that we did that, because then they might not do it.
I've got friends that really shut, I will not discuss like child rape, or I'm like, why?
You have to.
I don't get it. It's happening. Where are they going to learn this stuff from?
The people that they shouldn't learn it from.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, where, at what point did they learn it's not normal?
Yeah,
Like certain behaviours, right?
Totally.
So sticking your head in the sand is never a good option.
No.
Even though you and I've got 3 children. My children, whatever, mine are young. Mine are 10, 12 and 14. You've got grandchildren. I don't know how you do it. It's crazy.
I don't know how it is sometimes.
It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I love it though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I have been a massive advocate for allowing, much to my family's kind of horror, since the beginning. I've never hidden anything from the kids. Never.
I'm the same.
We've got a lot of stuff that goes on inside our family, and I think that a lot of people could probably relate with this anyway, that you always have family members. I think there's, what's the saying, there's one in every family, and sometimes there's 2 or 3. So I had that type of a situation, and I've never hidden it, ever, from the kids, because I don't think it's valuable. Like, I've censored parts of things, and I always come from love and a space of love, saying we love this person, but we don't necessarily like their behaviours, and this is what's happening, and these are the results of these choices, so that they can see that.
And that to me is conscious parenting.
But it's never cool when you stick your head in the sand and go, it's not happening, and everything's fine. Or worse, make excuses.
Which is another form of ostrich parenting. You don't want to admit that they're actually doing those things wrong, or else if they sat them down and heard them. I work with some teens as well, and every single teen that comes to me, it's either their mum or their dad, generally speaking, or something that had gone on at school or whatever. But generally it's the mum or the dad, and they all say the same thing. They don't listen to me. I feel unheard. And that's one thing I always did, was I always heard my children out. I always listened to them, and then from that, then I would make up my mind.
Do you know what? Can I like, when you've got I've got a sister that's just completely wayward, and has caused some serious problems inside the family, right? And this is the worst part. So when they're off the track and losing their shit and doing all the crazy shit, it feels like all the energy, and it has been that way for.
It's just onto you.
Well, to them,
family.
To them, but then I'm expected to actually, or was expected to kind of like hold. It doesn't matter, because she's the strong one.
Yes,
we've got to save her. We've got to save this person. We've got to save that family member. And that's what it came down to. For me, and that was actually my pain. I don't think you actually realise the ramification of it. And my parents spent their life saying, we're not choosing. It's like, yeah, but by not hearing me and not listening to what I'm telling you, you are actually choosing.
Yeah. And it's always the strong ones that you actually should really check in on.
Yeah.
I think and feel, because someone's strong for a very good reason. And they've had to come from something to find that strength within.
Yeah.
And the ones that always appear so strong and so good, and I'm very strong, but there's still days where I might have that moment and I think, what if, or, I wish someone would, we all do when we're a strong person. It's like, we're the ones that are always seeking out and looking after everyone else and making sure that everyone else is okay.
100%.
But no one checks because we're strong. They think, oh, well, they're okay because they're strong.
Sorry.
And they're going to be fine. They can handle it. And I think that as well in parenting is a bit ostrich as well. Just because your child's strong or has a strong personality doesn't necessarily mean that emotionally they're handling the situation.
100%. I agree. What are you doing? She's moving equipment. She's moving things around. I literally have lived I'm 42 now, and you're
45.
Yeah, she's 45. Making a point of it. It's ridiculous. What elixir is this lady drinking? What kind of trickery?
It's good water.
Please break. This is a Kangen water advert. Just kidding. But I know that I don't know, your stories. Have you shared your story publicly yet?
Never.
Okay, so I don't want to do that here necessarily. But your story has led you to this point.
Correct. Yeah.
And the work that you do with these people that come to you, and this is the thing, right? So, and I think that whenever you're looking for an expert or someone to help you through or to do anything, you're looking literally for people to kind of go, well, why should I listen to you? What's your expertise? What do you know? You haven't, and I hear this all the time. People go, you don't know. You have no idea what kind of life I've lived.
Totally. Yeah, you should never assume someone's life just because it appears a way.
Yeah. Because we think that looks sharp. It's part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, I'm polished.
I'm good. Everything's fine. She's got a mic out. Look at this one go. What's happening now, Lily?
Well, I've just got a question. So I was doing a bit of research on Ostrich Parenting. And there was a survey that was done that basically said, smacking kids is not the way forward. Like, you shouldn't smack your kids. And, everyone came back and said, well, I was smacked and I'm fine. And, I grew up being smacked and I'm fine. That's it. That is them not necessarily being bad parents, but that's them obviously putting their head in the sand and going, well, I'm going to smack my kids because that's how I was grown. Right. So, can we elaborate on that a little bit?
On the smacking side of things?
The smacking side of things, but also why do they this is learnt behavior, but why are people so not open to being well,
I can't imagine. Can I just say, when I used to get hit as a kid.
Yeah, me too. I was belted.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right, and I remember just being so resentful. And I never, do you know what stops me from hitting my kids? Is I never want my children to think and feel about me like I felt when I was. It's so disempowering.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
It is. And it's the eyes. Everything's in the eyes.
The fear.
It's the fear. And I don't take comfort in anyone feeling fearful.
Yeah.
Ever.
And it's like a power thing, the movie Matilda?
Yes.
I'm big, you're small,
Yeah. I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah. I'm big, yeah.
No.
It's not right. And even smacking, I admittingly when my kids were little, maybe you might smack them on the hand.
Yeah.
But then I did that 1 or 2 times and I was like, I don't like it.
It didn't
feel right to me.
Yeah.
And I think that smacking your child, and some people may disagree and that's okay. We all have our own opinion. But it's teaching your child that violence is okay.
Yeah. And
that's how you deal with when you do something wrong. You
say code.
Yeah. And just because our parents did it to us, doesn't necessarily mean that that's right and that we should do it to our children. There's other ways.
But the pressure,
yes,
because when I had Blade, right, the pressure that I had from my mum. And I'm not, P.S., this is not like a bad session for my mum or my parents
No.
or anything. They did the best that they
Yeah.
could with what they had, right?
Totally.
So that's
That's all
got
they knew.
right. So, and this is the other thing, like my grandparents or parents, so they have not only like their parents, but like so closely related to my grandparents. That's a long time ago. So I get it. I just remember, and it was instrumental, like being down the hallway when Blade was 10 months old, and he was in his crib, and my mum was just like, leave him. He's screaming, he's crying, he's screaming. You know, like, I was like, no. And that's the other thing, because it's not always about smacking.
Well, that's what I mean. Sorry, my question essentially was like, so people who grew up with parents that smacked them, how do you then not smack your children? How do you then leave your children? That's the ostrich parenting. How do we, because parents are so, well, this is what I learned and I grew up to be a well-functioning, well-balanced human being. How do we then break that cycle with our kids so it's not ostrich? Because most people probably don't realise that they're doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And the thing is, it's pretty simple. What's right for one person is not right for the next. Because people are individual, and I get that, and I understand DNA and you know, like lineage and all that kind of stuff, and I get that. But people are different. Every person's individual, and how they respond and react to certain things, you know, kind of. And especially with the increase in awareness around ADHD, ADD, autism, spectrum disorders, all that kind of stuff.
Anxiety, all that sort of stuff, you know.
Depression.
Yeah, we have temper tantrums. We rage, and it's like, But if the child rages,
oh, it's terrible.
It is, but that's how they've got to get their emotion out somehow.
Of course.
And for myself, like going back to the smacking thing as well, it's like, yeah, it might have worked for their parents, but for me, I find that it's not teaching the child anything. They're not learning anything from that situation. It's like, bang, you've done wrong, belt, go to your room, nothing's spoken about. Or sit down, talk to the child, you know, and explain to them what they've done and why they shouldn't have done it.
But okay, so what about this scenario? Explain it. I've explained 100 times.
Then you're not explaining or listening. More so, listen to the child, let the child talk. But I think it's built into us as well, you know, and I'm talking in my era, I'm a 70s, you're a 70s, and kids were seen and not heard.
100%. I had $1 for every time I've heard that phrase.
Yeah. You know, we what would we know? We're 10. We don't have a right to an opinion, but our kids are actually more intelligent than what we sometimes give them credit for. And they can actually teach us about ourselves.
Yeah.
My kids have pointed things out about myself sometimes.
Yeah, call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah, they call me out.
Shut up.
I'm like, I'm not listening. No. What do you mean?
Yeah. Who do you think you are? Me?
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't sound like that. But you do, Mum. Yeah.
And like I've heard it 100 times. Well, you explain it 101. And then when they don't get it on the 101, 102, because I think people's jobs as parents, it's persistence and consistency, and you find, and you're a problem solver.
Absolutely.
Parenting is problem solving.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And what's the alternative?
So we've just had Jazz come on and she said, I think it's a combination of listening to the child, but also asking questions.
Oh, totally.
Asking the child why they did what they did, asking them why they thought it was okay, and asking them what they could have done differently.
That is so good. Yes, because then you're going to find out as the parent why they did those things. Then you can help either correct it or understand why that was done in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's,
So what kind of, because and again, this was something that we talked about yesterday, is because there's so many moving parts of people, and people, in an ideal white picket fence world, we can say, this is how it should be, this is what's ideal, but you're literally dealing with people that have come from damaged backgrounds or warped or bent ideals. Like, how do we reach that? Because that's the key for me. I get the people that are ready and the ones that kind of like are interested and want to kind of like be in that space. But how do we reach those people? How do we get to those people to get them to that point?
I guess, you know, just from sharing and talking about it, and hopefully it sort of comes in there.
These conversations.
Yeah, these conversations. Yeah. And, you know, that's one thing I learned through my studies as well. And, you know, and we'll go with our children. We all have different ways of learning. Some people are visual, some people are audio, some people have to do and touch.
Kinesthetic,
you know. And our kids are the same. It's like, well, how does your child best learn? And then what's your child's love language is another one, you know, like to learn your child's love language and to learn how your child takes in information and learns information. Then if you show them through that way, then you'll probably find that they listen better as well.
So what are your thoughts on, because there's so many, and I get it, because parenting is hard. It is hard.
It is.
It really is. There is no one shoe fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so this is the reality of it. And especially when you're in a family that's got more than one child, you've got to deal with all of those facets.
Absolutely. And then bring in, you know, stepchildren, and then, you know, step parents,
Yeah.
and then their background, and then the way they've raised their children, the way you raise their children, and then you've got all that
Yeah.
for some families as well. You know, when I went to school, it was rare for someone to say, oh, that's my stepdad.
Yeah.
Everyone's parents were together. Whereas these days it's rare if the parents are still together.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, is that
What?
right? Is that your mum and dad? Are they still together?
Yeah.
You know, so there's all those things that we have to, you know, take into consideration.
Do you know, I heard once, and it was a perfect description, is that families, not even just families, businesses, anything like
Yes.
that, like any sort of kind of like community space, right? It's like, very much like sitting around, like in my house, we sit around the dining table. for food.
Yes.
When we were kids, it was literally, we had food and we'd sit and watch television in front of the television and eat.
And no one talked and asked how the day was.
No.
Yeah.
No, there was not very rare that would happen, that we'd sit around a dining table, we'd always sit in front of the television and eat, right?
Yeah.
So what are the rules? Like, what are the rules? You don't know, because they come from different dynamics, but getting clear around people's, the rules on how they kind of like, how they live their,
Like what?
because if you have someone like, because this is cause of conflict, right? You can have people that do sit and watch television and go, well, hang on a second, sit around the table, and that could be a conflict in itself. And it's kind of like,
Absolutely.
and that comes down to even just like in the home. Like my son would rather sit and eat his food in front of his computer.
Then come and sit at the table and talk to everyone.
Yeah.
But later on, would he like to come and sit on the floor in the lounge room and chat to everyone?
Yeah, he always does.
Yeah, because I used to have those lounge room. I used to have floor chats with the kids. Like we'd all get in and we'd sit on the floor, and I'd always try and make sure that we all just sat down and spent that quality time.
Because they do all together.
All together. Yeah, and then individually as well, I'd go and do things with them. I'd always make sure.
Because you say a lot. You're a massive advocate for that.
Well, something that I, like my family did growing up was it wasn't every single night, but maybe one night a week, we would have, just say it was Wednesday night, and we'd all sit and have dinner together, and we would do like, what's your high five moment of the week? What made you sad this week? What can we do to talk about it? And then my parents were really big on doing things like together like that, but also individually. So like my mum and my brother, they have this thing where they like try a sausage roll. Wherever they go together, they'll get a sausage roll.
Yum.
And my mum and I, luckily for me, we do seafood platters. You know, my other brother, like they go and watch movies, you know, so they each of us have like a thing with one of our parents that we do, but we have the collective, you know, what's your high five? And we still to this day on a Wednesday or whenever we're all together, we'll have dinner and we ask the question, you know, what was your high five moment? What was your upset of the week? And we go around the table and we talk about it, and we high five the good moments and we talk about the upsetting moments. And that's something that for me was really like, that's something that I'll pass down if I ever have kids.
We did that with our kids, especially when we were going through family hard times in our own space.
In your own space. And it's great because you know where your child's, you know, like lacking or excelling or what they're struggling with. You know, I used to have a thing with all of my kids growing up, and I used to call it the friend chat. So especially as teenagers, and I was a single mum, mind you, so I raised my kids by myself. Like I came out of my marriage and my eldest was 12. So I had 4 children under the age of 12 and had to do all of this. And so my thing was like, how can I know what my kids are up to, who they're hanging out with? I never wanted them to be afraid of coming to me because I was always afraid to go to my parents. My mum was you know, bless her cotton sock, she's no longer here, but she was amazing, you know, she was a loving mum, and I could tell her most things.
Yeah.
But I still had that fear of my stepdad finding out. So I kind of withdrew, and I would maybe tell the wrong people. So I wanted to incorporate into my family the friend chat. So it was, no matter what it is that you've done, if you say to me, the cue was friend chat. Now I can't get angry, I can't get sad, I cannot react, I have to listen to whatever it is that they're going to tell me, and it could be anything. And then we have to find a solution. And so whatever it was, they're not scared to tell, because they know that it was like, do you remember Maxwell's mum?
Yes, the cone of silence.
And now I'll, like, my kids, now that they're older, they'll come to me and I'll be like, let's mind map. You know, and I'll mind map and I'll help them work their things out. We'll come to solutions like that. And there's so many different things, you know, now that they're older, but younger. I remember when my son came to me and he said, the first time I ever heard the word friend chat, it's like, Mum, I need a friend chat. And he was 15. I'm like, what's he going to tell me? He's 15, he wants a friend chat. Is he going to tell me his girlfriend's pregnant? Or, you know, what's he done? And all these things go through my mind. But I'm like, no, relax. It's a friend chat, kind of silence. I went in, I can compose myself, and I've gone in. And I've gone, okay, yeah, we're here, we're friend chat. And he goes, Mum, I just want to tell you, I smoke cigarettes. And I was like, and I couldn't do it. I could not let him see me with this reaction go, oh, is that all? No, but literally, that's how I felt. I was like, is that all? I'm like, oh, yes, he smoked a cigarette. You know,
no one's pregnant, people.
Yeah, no one's pregnant. No one's done drugs or stolen cars or done anything. You know, like a teenage boy.
How lovely.
So lovely. And he could share that with me, and then I could share my side of it. And at the time, I smoked cigarettes. So who am I to say you can't smoke cigarettes? Yeah. And he doesn't smoke now, and that's fantastic. But
do you think, though, that there is, so, like, I'm super close with my mum. My mum is honestly my best friend. Like, a lot of the time people will comment and be like, oh my God, I hope I'm that close with my daughter, or blah, blah. People are really astounded at our relationship. My youngest brother, though, is also very close with my mum, and he's a very open kid, and he's gorgeous. But some of the things he does, like, we have a very open family. We talk about everything. But sometimes is there a point where you're just like, I don't want to know about that. Where do we, like, do you know, sometimes I think, like, nope. Yeah, because my youngest brother's 18. And how do you know what I mean? Like, is there that line where we just go, hang on a minute, like, you know, you're 18, you're safe, you're happy, you're well, I don't need to know about your sex life or whatever else. Do you know what I mean? How do we, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What's your thoughts?
You know, and my girls will kill me right now. It's all good. Sorry, girls, if you're watching this in advance, but I sometimes I'll hear conversations. They'll forget that I'm in the circle with their friends, and they'll talk about things, and I'll be like, I don't know, think about my daughter doing that, you know. Yeah. But I think as well, it's a beautiful thing that I'm able to hear and experience, that they feel so comfortable that they can talk about the things that they do.
Going back to what you said before, like, the biggest thing for me is something that you said, you could talk to the wrong people about it. And actually, like, having that friend chat, and that is actually, like, I've talked to you, Natalie, about a lot of the stuff that's gone over in the last 5 years. So, and you do, and thank God you're you, and you have an incredible moral compass, and you are literally one of the most centered, grounded people that I actually know, right? But if you weren't you, and you had other advice, and had you sat at a different table and ate in a different way, and had a completely different set of moralistic values, I could be screwed. If you don't make an effort as a parent to create that environment for your children to come to you and be the first port of call, then you're literally leaving it to strangers that you don't know, and they're not going to come to you.
Yeah, they're not, and they're going to go down the wrong path, and they're going to take the long journey.
Holy shit.
And like, you know, we can't prevent them from doing everything, but we can prevent them from doing the worst things. And, you know,
or at least prepare them.
And prepare them, absolutely.
Huge.
But, you know, and this is something I didn't know, you know, as a mum, and I learned it in the studies that I did. Our children when they're born, in the first 7 years, their brainwave is theta, which means imagination. So that's why kids can make mud pies and pretend that it's a pie, or it's,
and cartwheels.
yeah, we're jumping from one couch to the other and it's lava on the carpet. They're in this imaginative state of mind, but they're also very, very receptive of everything that's going on in their environment. And that, in the first 7 years, whatever your child hears, sees, feels, does, is making them for what they are as an adult.
Basis.
It's the basis of their subconscious, and it's going to create future, self-sabotage, or, how are they going to be confident? Are they going to have body issues?
And how crazy is it? Because parenting's hard. In the beginning of the parenting journey.
Yes.
It is hard.
Yes.
And I don't know about anybody else, but the first 7 years for us as parents, we're through the other side of 16 years together, and we've been through absolutely everything, but children, whatever. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like hard to navigate those waters.
Yeah.
And I get it, but there's help.
There is.
There is help, and there's education, and there's people like Renee that you can go to and reach out to kind of say, hey, I'm not exactly getting all this shit. I don't know what to do. But we live in the golden age of knowledge and accessible knowledge at your fingertips.
Totally.
Again, having a conversation today, and my thoughts on university, don't get me started. And it's great for many reasons, but we live in an era where you can be educated if you choose on absolutely anything. And if what you need is to connect with a person, which I actually highly recommend, because people connection and sharing stories and everything else is important. But there really is no excuse. It's accessible.
It is.
It really is. There was a time where it wasn't.
Yeah.
And you had an excuse. My parents had that excuse.
Yeah, well, they had encyclopedias. That was it. They didn't have.
They were outdated.
Yeah, they were outdated. Yeah, they weren't even updated.
Right. So my grandparents had that excuse. There is no excuse in this day and age, not in my view.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think as a parent, there's no right or wrong way, and all our ways are individually right. Our subconscious mind, or our brain, the way we think, is like a fingerprint. You can show 20 people the same sentence, and those 20 people will take a different meaning out of that sentence. So no one's ever going to agree on the exact same thing.
Of course.
But I think as a parent, go down the road. If there's one thing you can take from this podcast today, explore subconscious and explore paradigms of the first 7 years of your children, and really be conscious about the things that you say around your kids, the things that you do around your children, because they're little sponges and they're listening to everything that we say.
So before we do wrap up, I do have one question for you both, and I'd like to hear both of your opinions. So yesterday in the news, a lady in Byron Bay, she lives just outside of Byron Bay. She's raising her child as a gumnut baby.
Okay.
So outside living, no sort of interaction with technology or anything like that. The police actually came and took the baby away from her.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so they were like, it's not safe, it's not healthy, because they were living outside. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my first thoughts, sorry.
No, you're right.
My first thoughts, as it's coming in to me, there's two approaches. There's the approach from reality and idealistically. Right? Idealistically, I think we look after today to decide what is right for a child. Right? That's my first thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the end of the day, and this is very reminiscent of what happened to the Aboriginal children of Australia, the Indigenous people here. They came along and said, you can't do this is not right, this is not the right way, this is outrageous because we have this set of belief, 2 different tables, right? That's a bit reminiscent. However, there's the reality side of it, and because you have to take things situationally, what is again, many moving parts, what's the actuality of that situation? And it's all well and good for our media and well-written press releases and cries for this is outrageous, but what are the actual circumstances that these people were living in?
Yeah, that's
Were
what
they
I was
dangerous?
thinking. Yeah, was that child in danger? Or is it, are they fed? Are they bathed? Are they, clean? Are they educated? Or are they literally living outside in the dirt? And like, just because they don't look at technology, is that a bad thing? No, it's not.
No, it's not. No.
Like
None of that annoys me.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. We haven't had we've only had technology really in the last 10 years. People have really been jumping on a big bandwagon of it. Not even.
The thing is, the technology doesn't bother me. But I think that is crazy.
Yeah, I
In my
think it's
view,
really crazy.
To shield a kid from technology is where we're going. I get that, right?
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to personal choice.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't concern me. Like the actuality of a child living in those conditions. I mean, was the child at risk?
Like how bad were the conditions?
Yeah.
I mean, I can only go off what I've read and seen, but from what I understand, it was a very much outdoor living in a tent. The baby, I believe, was 8 months old, not having like a cot, not having
That's okay.
proper access to
Yeah.
anything. And again, like that, it's all personal circumstance, what you think is right for your baby or whatever. I don't know. I don't believe the parents were negligent or harmful or purposely doing anything to harm the baby. But then I also don't know how I would feel having an 8-month-old living in a tent.
You're you.
Yeah.
And this is the thing.
Do you know what I mean?
Can't come at it from a circumstance. You're very different. Like, dude, I can't even. I need aircon.
Yeah, me too. Aircon, like
I would
all
freak
day
out.
and night.
But I know so many people. They're like, well, like I love being in a tent. I don't care about aircon.
Yeah. Or what if that's all they could afford right now? You know, people forget about that as well. We all do the best we can with the resources that we have.
100%. Yeah.
You know, that's maybe all they can do, and they were doing the best that they could.
And they want to be off the grid.
Yeah.
And this is the crazy shit that's going on in the world, man. I think it's gone kind of like a bit beyond a next level. We're getting to a point now where we're saying to people, and this is kind of like dangerous territory, don't get me started, but dangerous territory in that communism space.
You just took the words out of my mouth.
Like, quite literally.
Okay, meatloaf.
All
All right, look, on that one, we are going to wrap up because we are a little bit over time. So,
No, but it is in that space. Let me finish. We're going to, like, that.
okay, Kanye. We got Meatloaf and Kanye with us today.
Who else have we got in the back? Rick, what are you bringing in?
I bring a Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg. For me, I think that people should be allowed to do what they want to do as long as it's not negative and harmful
Absolutely.
to themselves or anyone else around them.
And the child, as long as the child's not harmed. There's parents out there that are called breatharians. Have you heard of them?
No.
Okay, and their children are breatharians, and they literally live on air. They do not eat food.
That's mental.
It's so mental.
It's
I know,
stupid.
right?
That's crazy.
But they're breatharians.
No.
You know? we'll talk about that next podcast.
Let's.
Yeah.
We get things.
If anyone out there listening is a breatharian, please contact us.
Yes, they're breatharians. Literally, they live on air.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I think that we're going to have many conversations
I
like
think
this. We're going to have many different topics that we can. My Lord. But I'm grateful that you came and you shared yourself and your knowledge. And guys, can I just say that there's a lot more to this human than meets the eye. So I can't wait for you to actually share your story and your backstory.
Yeah.
You won't. Your mouth will be on the floor. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And guys, you're doing the best you can with the resources you have. Just remember that.
Yeah.
You know, there's no right or wrong way of being a mum or a dad. You're doing the best you can, and that's all that matters.
Legend. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.